So this video we're going to go over tips and tricks on how to improve your colors in your photos, the different color techniques you can use in your image to pull out colors, make the colors more appealing. So a big problem for most people is that they don't have a style yet, they don't know where to start with editing. So what you want to do is just enhance the colors already in your image. So here's one of my favorite photographers. We've done like heaps of free tutorials on YouTube with him before. He brings out the natural colors in the image. So if you look at his Instagram, he's focusing on the color that's naturally in the photo. But if there's warm tones, he's enhancing the warm tones. If there's blue tones, he's enhancing the blues. If there's greens, he's bringing out the greens. Okay, so let's get into some practical tips on how to work with color. We'll start off quite simple, but then we'll probably get too advanced for most people. I'll try to explain how color actually works and all the tools, how they interlink together. So no matter what your style is, your color palette, you're gonna have cool tones and warmer tones. And they're just gonna be different shades, but there's still tones that are warmer and there's still tones that are colder, and you just accentuate these cool tones and warm tones to help color contrast in your image. So filters are really great for that. So for example, here we have the line selected. So this is Ricardo, guest editor in the course. So he is bringing out the temperature of the lion. It makes the lion pop from the rest of the image because it complements his color palette, where this is all cold tones. If we look at the original after, you can now see the lion really pops out. So we have another mask down the bottom here, and we'll just increase the warmth here. So this brings out all the warmth, or just more of these tones, all the warm tones, and Mitchell has a very strong warm and blue split. And yet again we have another one here over the subject, bringing out all the warm tones in the subject, and then we have a lot of blue in the split toning. So we make the image blue, but then we keep the subject warm, and it creates color contrast, and therefore the subject pops a lot more. Okay, here's another one from Mitchell. So we have light coming through up here. So we've got a mask, and we've got the mask here. And with the mask, we just make the rays to try to give more of a vibrant ray feeling. I'm going to bring up the warmth, and the light shines through, complementing all these blues down here, because he also goes for really blue shadows. And then what we've done with the mask is we just erased with a brush these branches, so we're only affecting the light behind these branches. Okay, so this image, we've got blues in the background, and then the subject here. So subject skin tone is always in the orange spectrum. So we've got a mask on the subject, and we're just increasing the warmth a little bit, and that makes the subject pop against the blue background. So if we reset, come back, you can see that there's a lot more color contrast in here. And then he's also got his style that he goes for with all this work here, which we'll get into soon. And then we've got this one from Daniel, he's a guest editor. So down here we're decreasing just to bring out more blues, to emphasize what is going on down here, to emphasize the foreground and all the ice there. Okay, here's another one with the filter up here. So this is Gabriel's image. So up in the sky, very blue gloomy day, and we're just bringing out all the warmth and the color out to the left, creating a real glow. We've also got the highlights, so really a nice effect there by bringing up the warmth out to the left. And then obviously it's very cold and blue on the outside of that. Okay, so this image, we've got the whites of the eye selected, so we just want to white balance it right. So we just want the whites of the eye to be very color correct. So we're just gonna put in cool tones to essentially white balance the photo. Okay, so this one, we've got the subject selected, just the warmth up the tiniest bit, and then the subject really pops from the bluey greens in the background. So we only want to do it real subtly. Okay, so that was really basic tip, because filters are just a little icing on the cakes, but you want to create themes and styles to your images. So just look at like this style, for example. If we turn off split toning, the image completely changes. If we turn off curves, the image completely changes. If we reset the white balance, it's completely changes. So all these tools are majorly working against each other, with each other. So what we want to do, like we said, bring out the natural colors in the image. So this is obviously, it should be blue. So what we've done is we have added in a lot of blue here and a little bit of green in the mids, but mostly it's still quite a bit of a blue. It's green. So you could do this to any image to get to pull out the natural, exaggerate the natural tones, a lot like what film does. So we're adding in a lot of blue to bring out the natural blues, and then even in the mids. So if we reset these, so after you've added in the natural tones and the split toning, you're gonna want to make sure your skin tones are correct. So this is reset now, and if I go back, I had to slide these really orange, because when you add green, we don't want the skin tones to go too green. So that's why these are like really to push against the split toning. So you need your skin tones to pop through what you're doing in split toning here. And then same with the curves here. This lets you get very targeted on where you want your blues or your warmth. So in this particular image we have a lot of cyan getting pulled in, because that's the color tone we want to pull out in this image. Okay, less red is going to give more of a bluey green look, and that's exactly what we want for this style. So we have pulled out a lot of red, introducing the cyan greenish blue, and there's a tiny bit of warmth getting added in as well, or extra blue in the shadows by the looks, yeah. And then we also have cooled down the image. We want more blues. Okay, so trying to sum up what I'm doing here is we're adding in the colors we want to exaggerate and bring out in the photo with split toning. And then in HSL, you just gotta then make sure your skin tones are good. So if I hadn't done any HSL adjustments, this is what it would look like. And then you need to correct your skin tones and stuff in here. But this is where you like split toning and curves is where you're gonna build split toning and curves. Combining them is the color palette. And I wouldn't say HSL is like a color palette, it's more like corrections, fine-tuning things. So here's another example, just really bringing out the blues here. Turn off lots of blues, and then we've got to, after we add in all those blues, we've then got to figure out how to make the skin tones look natural with HSL. So yeah, in this example, that lots of greens, lots of deep blues. Bring it back. So we want to bring out all the blues that are meant to be in this image. So lots of green, lots of blue, and then we've got to make sure the skin tone is good, and also bring in some of those natural bluey greens with the curves here, and then cooling down the image because originally it was very warm. Bring it down, looks more white balanced, and reset. You can see how much of a dramatic change we made these. So I don't like doing too much brushing on the skin to fix your skin tones, because If they don't look good without brushing, you're doing something wrong. Somewhere in your curves, somewhere in your split toning. So you don't want to have to rely on painting your skin tones better with, say, select subject, and they would go about fixing skin tones warmer, more purple, which is okay. But if they don't look good without that, your white balance or something will be off. So you should be able to get good skin tones without the brushing. But brushing and filters is like an enhancement. It's not where you're building your color palette. Here's another example. Lots of greens and blues in the mids, highlights and shadows. But then we need those skin tones to look okay, to look good. So they're going to be too blue, green. So we have to go this way. Okay, example of a naturally warm image. We did a lot of blues and greens before. Naturally warm, so we are focusing on bringing out the warm tones. So that's why we lifted the warmth so much, to bring out all these warm tones. And then you have to work on balancing it by adding cooler tones and split toning. Here's another one. So this is the original, way too warm. Let's bring out the greens and the blues by bringing down the temperature, adding in a lot of those colors we wanted to bring out. So the blues, wanted all those blues in, and it brings out the greens, and then you got to play around to get the right skin tone after you've done the split toning to bring out those natural tones. Okay, so I love this image. If we reset, so there's naturally yellows in this image to begin with. She's blonde, her skin tone, the buildings. So we're gonna bring out those yellow tones in the split toning to give the image more warmth. And then I can't go into curves right now, but we added in more warmth in the mids with curves, and after you've added in the colors that you want to, the natural tones in your image, then you go in and make sure you've got your skin tone right. So if we just went default, the skin tone still looks good, but I think we slightly improved it with some adjustments there. So in this one we wanted to bring out the yellows, and we did a good job of doing that. Made it more warm. The colors is a big reason why I like this image. Okay, so I love this image. If we reset, it's obviously really warm, really awesome image. And then what we did is we just increased the warmth a little bit, because we want this image to be about the warmth. That's the natural tone that really makes this image interesting. So that's why we increased the warmth here. But sometimes increasing the warmth might just make your image look unnatural. So that's why you want to understand the curves and the color grading, the split toning, to then balance it. So it's not overwhelming. You're not bringing out these original tones too much to the point where it looks unnatural. And then Josh Ball's a guest editor, so he does, if you're not sure what to do, just do a complementary split of warm and cold tones. So here we have just shadows, warm, highlights, cold, and it just gives nice color contrast to the image. Want to make sure her shirt doesn't get too blue, and then we're bringing out all these nice rich tones. But we need the blue highlights just to neutralize the whites in her shirt, because it should be pretty white balanced. So it's closer to white. Looks good. So this is pretty advanced, and it's next to impossible to recreate these edits without knowing what you're doing. That's why I've asked the guest editors for the preset raw image and step-by-step instructions. That's how I'm improving my editing myself nowadays, because even though I can recreate a lot of these people's images, it's still pretty hard, because all these tools are so interwoven with each other. So it's taken me like 7 years of just focusing nothing but Lightroom to figure this sort of stuff out, how to make all these tools work together, which one should you focus on to balance tones and so on, to create color palettes, cohesive color palettes and consistent edits and natural looking images.